Bitcoin, of course, the talk of the town. Could we reach an new all-time high? We'll break it all down for you today. We've got Evan Aldo with me. It's going to be a good one. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Joining me today, of course, is Evan Aldo. Before we get into that, I want to jump into our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. iTrust Capital is the place for your crypto IRA, and it's one of those things that you can do very easily when you want to set something up. Just go over to iTrust website. You'll join over 200,000 others who are ready to kind of start their crypto journey. And you can do it through a crypto IRA, self-directed, very easy, no fees on a monthly basis. You just pay your fees based on your trades. So you can do that all within your IRA. And it acts just like any other IRA. So you can transfer one in or start a new one. Very easy to do. Just hit our link down below to get a $100 funding reward and get started. All right, I want to bring in Evan Aldo. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin and jumping into all the charts. How are you, Evan?
Doing great. Great to be on. Really excited. Very, very excited time coming up with the election, coming up with the second rate cut. That can mean a lot for Bitcoin dominance and a lot of things that we'll talk about.
Yeah, definitely. October indicators suggest 2024 could be the market is back, and this could be a breakout for Bitcoin. If you look at the charts in general, there's a couple of points within the article because the market break, this is a 7-month downtrend that's starting to signal out. And there's also meme coin activity, which we've seen kind of coming over the last few weeks. And then obviously the first impulse of accumulation that usually precedes a bull market. So there's that scenario playing into this, Evan. With all of that happening right now, what do you like about Bitcoin? Is it in a good position to maybe start to really break out here before the election?
It could be. It definitely can be. I mean, if you look at the 3-week, the first thing we'll talk about here, you're getting a green dot in the 3-week. The last time we saw this was October of 2023, so about a year ago, actually exactly a year ago, pretty much. And that was a good continuation up here into a lot of this, run up. And if we do repeat something of this nature, which I think we might, I mean, 120 by May of next year, I don't think it's going to be that crazy, but a little bit diminished returns, maybe that could be finally where we hit that 100K. On the low side, a new all-time high, so 90 to 100K or high 80s to 100K in terms of that area on the macro, that could absolutely be possible. If we look at another, situation where a similar thing happened, I mean, this run up right here, that's 92 by November 11th. I doubt it. Things would get really crazy if that happened to happen, but yeah, I think it's a macro very bullish sign. If we zoom in a little bit more here, your money flow is still good in your 2-week. And if we look at these previous bull runs, I mean, money stayed in the green for a while, especially, this time and then this last time here from December 2020 in the 4-year cycle all the way up to around April 21. And our true all-time high was a little bit after that. So you got room, to keep going over the next, 6 to 12 months here, maybe even a little bit more. In my opinion, if we look at a little bit more of the short term, your 3-day is looking great. Money flow coming from red to green right here. Very similar to what we saw back here. Exactly what I was just talking about, October of 23. So yeah, it's looking really bullish. In the really short term, I was looking at this a little bit earlier. You are hitting a linear spiral line. Just think of it as a support and resistance point. And you're getting a bear div on the 4 hours. So it could be risky, I think, because things look really good in the macro, but you could come down a little bit with this. I could see a retest of like 65, something like these areas right here in the short term. But sometimes when you're just in an uptrend, you just break above and then get up to this next huge point, which is going to be 72, which that could be a good goal in the next, by election end of month. 72K is a big place that I could be looking at. And then after that, I think the sky's the limit. We should generally be upward, in a bullish momentum similar to September, October 23 into what we saw early next year. So, yeah.
And then within that, you look at dominance right now. So if you look at the Bitcoin dominance side, and if you kind of compare the chart right here, this is one analyst looking at it. Is this the reversal area where we could see it fall off the cliff and start to spin to altcoins? What are your thoughts? Do you feel like we still have some time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm normally very skeptical of what I see on Twitter, but I feel like that guy might be spot on. It is an obvious path, though, so there's always a curveball. But if we look at Bitcoin dominance here, little reverse head and shoulder situation. If you break upward, from that, you got a technical target at the big number that we've been waiting for years for now, right around 60%. I got a fib level at 60.3% right here. And I think we could hit that and then generally reject from that. If we look at some of the, macro points right here, you got your money flow starting to come down on the 2-week, things of that nature. Your monthly, I wanted to show you as well. I think the next red dot on the monthly is going to be really good. Look at these really high RSIs. These are the highest RSIs we've ever seen on Bitcoin dominance. So likely you will see a reversal relatively soon, which would coincide, the way I mapped it out, this would coincide with the election, and it would also coincide with the Fed meeting, which is going to be early November as well. In terms of altcoins outperforming Bitcoin, if we look at others versus Bitcoin, which is everything outside of the top 10 market cap versus Bitcoin, you got a nice, beautiful double bottom right here, and you're going to get a green dot bullish divergence as money flow, as price is coming down. You're going to get momentum waves are coming up, which is a rare first time ever bullish sign on others versus Bitcoin. So, I know a lot of people are afraid of alts, but if we just look here, everything outside of the top 10 market cap has outperformed Bitcoin over the whole course of this market since 2014, so for the last 10 years. And I think this could continue. And I think altcoin season is getting very, very close to starting. Very close.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out what positions to go into, because there's quite a few new tokens that have started to come on the map. We'll get into some of those. Before we fly into some of those, I want to take a quick look at Ethereum. Analysts right now predicting all-time high for rally for Ethereum. And there's a couple signals within it. You look at where this pattern is holding right now. This is just one of, let me kind of zoom in on that chart right there. It has a similarity to what we've seen in the past in terms of these channel uptrends. What do you like or don't like right now on ETH? Is this one that you would stay with, or would you distribute those funds maybe into small coins? What are your thoughts?
Well, it depends how much risk you want to take for altcoins. I do really like ETH right now. I agree with that analysis. That's something similar to what I was looking at in my chart over here. And if we look at the 2-week, I circled it right here, little trigger wave. That's what they were talking about, this rally upward, from similar to what I was talking about Bitcoin October of 23, jumping up kind of from those areas, potentially up to 5,000. In April, you could even, mess with this a little bit from the low over here. That could be high fives by mid-2025, which if I had to make an educated guess, somewhere by mid-25, somewhere between all-time high to 6,000. So between 5 and 6,000 by middle of 2025 would be my prediction. That rare bullish sign is great, right here. And if we look at, let's, zoom in a little bit more here, it just looks really, really good. The short term, you're looking at potential kind of reverse head and shoulder pattern, also that double bottom right there, a lot of good things. And out of that, you get a technical target. One big target's going to be 3,300. I like, this is subjective. You could be more conservative with it, draw it from a different neckline kind of from there. 3,200, and it coincides with this big pocket at 3,200 right there. And if we also look at the 2-day, money flow in the red for a while, coming up trigger wave right there, which is really, really good.
Right.
Things look just like that analysis, things look very similar. Money flow coming up, trigger waves right here, big rally forward. So in all likelihood, I think we will see some type of situation similar to that. Now, you asked about, are altcoins going to be better than ETH? I think over the next year, it's going to be a little bit riskier. I would use a lot of diversification, but you probably, in all likelihood, will be able to outperform ETH if you buy altcoins now, as long as you have a diversified portfolio and you're not buying a bunch of nonsense tokens here and all these meme coins. But maybe even then you'll outperform. Who knows? But the last thing I'll show you real quick is ETH versus Bitcoin right now, which we've been in a big kind of downtrend. I think we're getting pretty close to that bottom, which could also coincide with the next Fed meeting, with the election. You're getting really close, I think. Maybe you make a little bit of a lower low here, come down to 0.037. That's going to be the big point that I'm looking at. Also, the 2-week, you're going to get another bullish divergence. Money flows coming up. So it's going to be one of these bullish divergences that really give you what you need. I don't think you would. We got to talk about all possibilities. I don't think you would dump down and come down to 0.03 on the ETH Bitcoin evaluation. That's probably the worst, absolute worst case scenario, which is another 20% down. And then I would assume after that you would have a very, bullish 2025 if that most bearish case plays out. But I think it's most likely going to be some situation, like this into 2025. Hopefully by the end of 2025, early 26, getting back up to these highs in 2018, 2017, which would be really great and which would really show ETH proving itself. But I would think if you can't make it up to these highs within the next year to year and a half, then, there's a little bit of concerns for Ethereum, if you only get up to this point or only get up to this point. So that's what we're going to look at here. But regardless of what happens, I think you should be able to outperform Bitcoin by at least 200 for the next likelihood.
If you guys have not checked out Evan's show, go over to his website, or I should say his YouTube channel, and just subscribe right there. 15,000 subscribers. He is killing it out there. I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this. And over 1,000 videos now. So congrats on all that, man. Let's get into the stuff that's happening over on Avalanche. Man, what a show that Avalanche is putting on in Argentina. And of course, they're getting ready to, I think they're going to be doing their keynote today. So we'll probably see some big news coming out. Obviously, if you have not, I'm sure everybody that's watching our show, but those of you that are new, and by the way, we are just crossing the 600K mark in terms of subs. A lot of new people coming into crypto right now, at least on our channel. A lot of new people coming in. I think they see the quality, Evan, that we're bringing, and they want to learn more about it. And people are learning about Avalanche for the very first time. So what do you like about AVAX right now? Is it poised to start moving?
AVAX is always poised, Paul. It's one of my favorite coins, but it's especially poised. I love, Argentina's done a lot of right things in recent times, and I think they'll continue to do some right things. And, we look at the 3-week right here, trigger wave. That's, I believe, the first time ever we've seen that on first time ever we've seen that on Avalanche. You had your bullish divergence here in October 23. You jumped up a lot, and I think that with the trigger wave, that would be almost as bullish, if not just as bullish here. So if you can repeat, I think it would be more extended than this situation, but if you could repeat that, then that's a run up to new all-time highs by hopefully February, March, Q2 of next year, run up to all-time highs. And then after that, in the second half of next year, in all likelihood, on my high end, hopefully we can get up to, it would be over a 10x, $360 from where we are in now, about 11x. So
yeah, that's about well, yeah, you're at 27 now, so that's a pretty significant move.
12, yeah, almost to 50, yeah, around those points. So it could be huge. I don't know if it's going to get that high. Let's just focus on getting up to new all-time highs. It could take some time, but it looks great in that aspect. If we look at some of the lower time frames here, this 2-week looks great. Money flow coming up, trigger wave. And then just some of the lower time frames. Money flow is generally coming up here. I'm not seeing anything too bad. You may get a bearish divergence here. On everything, I could see some short-term more consolidation. It kind of trying to jump off of a decent point right where we are right now. Trigger wave forming on the 6-hour with money flow coming up. So, I could be wrong, but I think there's a good shot of coming back up to $30 and then hopefully, pushing through that $30 mark and making a run up to, let's say $33 sometime in November, and then end of year, hopefully 40 end of year, maybe even these highs, depending on what we see with Powell, what we see with the election. So a lot could really happen here. And if you look at this, last thing I'll say real quick, if you look at this 3-day, right here, this area in November of 23, if we could repeat that situation, that's a run up to $62. I don't think it's going to be November 17th that quickly, but end of year could be a goal for, $60.
SUI has a little bit of FUD in the market right now. Foundation says infrastructure partner likely sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of SUI on this run up. A lot of people looking at this, and some people saying, hey, yeah, these are the kind of things that happen with some of these big tokens. But the question is, can SUI's ecosystem withstand the pressure, especially around the crypto FUD that's facing it right now? What do you like? Would you short SUI right now? Hovering around that 200 mark, would you short it?
No, I don't think I would short it based on what I'm seeing at the short. Well, it depends. If we're just talking about scalp trading, maybe. But let's, if we look at SUI right
Long-term
now,
trading,
and
you're
you're
going to
hitting
say this is something you'd hold.
long, yeah, I would not be sure. I wouldn't be shoring much of anything long term right now, given these conditions. I mean, if you look at the trigger wave trying to form in the 6 hours, similar to that time, you do have money flow coming out, which is a little bit of a concern. But I kind of feel like either consolidation here or you get kind of a jump up a little bit more. Not up to $3 so soon with this FUD, but I could see some consolidation, some boringness kind of happening. I mean, the big place to really hold, like I would be looking to short if we lose this big point. If we lose $2 decisively, we're at the 190, we're losing that, coming down to these points, then it's going to look more like you'd come back to 115, get a 50% correction. But as of right now, I'm not seeing anything bad enough. I mean, you do have a high anchor wave right here, similar to this area. He absolutely could come down. I mean, with the kind of bad news, let's say, coming out, do you really want to be putting all your eggs in one basket in SUI right now? But I think a diversification is really important here. And I think that there's a good shot with if the whole market comes up, I wouldn't expect this to just drop 50% and go down to 115 here. There's a lot of things that could save the day. You look at your 10-hour, for example, trigger wave, another one forming right here. And if we look at what happened with those two, this jumped up, and then potentially, if you follow that pattern, $2.50 could be next, and then potentially a jump up higher to that $3 mark. Would I long it right now based on this FUD? I think there's better things to mess with, but I would remain neutral on it at the moment. Remain a little bit more neutral, and I wouldn't get too caught up in the FUD.
So kind of holding steady on SUI, not shorting, but not looking at long-term, longing it right now. Say also is surging ahead with daily active wallets. There was a little bit of activity there, number of daily actives skyrocketing. Huge interest in Say. This is another one that everybody's been kind of watching for quite some time. We've talked about it a little bit. When you look at Say, and first of all, do you own Say? Have you traded on it yet?
I do own Say, not a large position. I mean, I have a lot of altcoins, so it's one of the many I do have. So yeah.
How do you like this one right now, especially when you look at that growth right there? Look at the current TVL. This is just frozen. It's not live, but 169.2 at time of that tweet, which was a significant trend up over the last 3 months. Where would you place Say right now on a position? Would this be a buy right now at where it is today, or would you say, hey, if you're not already in it, stay away from it? What would be your role?
I think there's, based on fundamentals and technicals, yes. Yeah, it would be a long-term buy, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in just one basket here. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, you got your big kind of drop down, just to show the volatility on this 80% correction. Now you're jumping up, and then you're trying to break upward from this pattern. Money flow looks great on the 3-day coming up, so I really like that. So, I think there could be, if you get an anchor wave bear div here, there could be some more consolidation or whatever, maybe even a drop back to 40 cents. But I think you got a good shot of getting up to that 57-cent range.
Yeah.
Yeah, 58, 57. Within, end of year, early next year is a good shot. That's what I'm kind of looking at right now. So I don't see anything too bad. I mean, you had your correction here. This is kind of a nice, maybe somewhat of a reverse head and shoulder formation, kind of forming. And that was the bottom of that shoulder right there, which is a pretty big place. And if we look at some lower time frames, I'm not seeing any trigger waves or anything too good at the moment really forming here. But you do have some money flow coming up. So, I mean, yeah, I think long term, it's definitely a pretty good buy. I think you got a really good shot of, at some point in maybe even end of year, if things go crazy, doubling by the end of the year, like what we talked about with AVAX or things like that. But sometime in 25, I think you'll at least see a retest of 94-cent area.
We're going to try to get the Say team on. So if you guys are listening to this out there and you're big fans of Say, just let them know. Hey, we want to chat with them. They can always hit us on Twitter. Mine's just at Paul Barron, and then also our network at Paul Barron TV. So let us know. Help us kind of connect over there. We've had a hard time reaching out to them and getting connected. So hopefully we can. I want to go through these last 3 tokens. We're going to take a look at XRP, mainly kind of barreling toward an ETF or a potential ETF. The Swell event just happened here in Miami. I was over there at the event. And I'll tell you, this was a fantastic event. I was impressed with the quality of the speakers. I was impressed with the quality of partners. Ripple is up to something here. A lot of big announcements, around payment. Stablecoin's still not necessarily approved totally yet when we get the Ripple, USD. But what are your thoughts on Ripple right now? What would you do on this one?
So the first thing I would say about Ripple is you can't go sideways forever. You've been in this since really, over a year now. You're either going to break upward to $1 or you're going to break downward to like 36 cents. And I think that, when we zoom out here, it's a very scary token. Ever since this run up in January 17, up to this point, you haven't seen much. You've still been below that. And on the trend line, I mean, I think $1 is a great bet. $1 you should hit at some point in 2025. Now, can you break above that $1 and do something different? If you can break above $1, then business. Like if you can break above that $1, like a lot of people are coming out of the graveyards. Like influencers that used to probably post about this, back here may come back from the dead or something. Things are going to get crazy if you could break this trend line and get up to these points. Even crazier if you could break above $2. Now, I mean, I think there's some good fundamentals. I agree with you. It's an annoying coin. All it's done is bleed so much against Bitcoin. I don't own it personally. I may, with the good news, buy some of it because I think you could at least double this, or get up to $1 over the next year. But just to, show people what this has done over years against Bitcoin. I mean, just look at this chart from those highs in June of 2017. You're down 96% against Bitcoin, at 97 points. So, but it is a big point against Bitcoin, and it is making surprisingly higher lows if we care about the lows back in 2014 to 2017. But these are higher lows, so you can do some serious damage against Bitcoin. I think 200% easily up to these points, especially in a bull run. So I think it's a good buy. Will it outperform an AVAX or some of the other ones we talked about? I mean, probably not, but I think it can be a good buy over the next year.
For those that are on XRP right now. Let's jump over to Jupiter. Grayscale lists Jupiter as an asset under consideration. So this could make its way into a group of funds out there. And if you think about this, Jupiter has been one we've talked about for quite some time, but the inflows have expanded. Let me kind of zoom in on that. Past few months, total value locks soared up to what, 1.32 billion in value, and then tokens and market capitalization about 1.16 billion. So makes it. Some people look at this as a very undervalued market cap. What would you say right now for Jupiter?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a good argument to be made for that. I mean, if we look right here on Jupiter, big area. We really want to break above 91 cents. We got the trigger wave right here on our 4-day, which shows there's a good shot of that. If we draw a technical target, kind of from these lows, even a reverse head and shoulders forming a little bit, then you could make your rally upward to around $1, maybe $1.20 end of year. If you can break above that, then you're looking at new all-time highs potentially. I kind of would guess it would take a little bit longer than January 25 to get up to these points. But hey, I mean, if Bitcoin makes an new all-time high, sure, this could really jump up. Looks great right here on the 2-day. So I think it is absolutely a buy right now. But I mean, I would not be putting all your eggs in one basket. Diversification is key with these altcoins. But
very much so.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very, very surprised if you can't make a run up to $1.50, by Q2 of next year. I'd be pretty surprised. So, yeah.
Awesome. So right now, Evan, you're in the bull camp by far. I think pretty much most of the market is. What's your top on Bitcoin? Do you feel like that 100K is going to be the number psychologically that everybody is going to look at, or do you feel like this is just a, maybe a pit stop along the way for Bitcoin?
I think that if you sold at 100K in if you sold at 100K and waited a year, most likely you will be able to get in at lower prices and just follow in the 4-year cycle. But I could show you kind of my longer term price prediction here. If we look at the weekly and we look at, some of my trend lines, some of my spiral lines. So I think I'm a big 4-year cycle believer. I think you will see the the high sometime at the end of 2025, maybe early 26. So the lower end, I would say like the absolute lower end that we would see at the end of kind of 2025 would be around 80K. I think we're going to get well above that. So really like the low end would probably be that 100K, 110K mark at the end of 2025. And then the high to middle range would be like 145, 150. I don't think you would get much above that. I guess it's possible to see 200K, but I think that's pretty unlikely. Let's say we get up to that 145, and it's typically used. We typically see, last time we saw 75% correction. Let's say we get less than that. Let's say we just do like a 50% correction. That's back to 68K where we are right now. 50% correction. If we did a 60% correction, 56K. You know, those areas are what I would kind of expect us to see at some point in 2026 following the 4-year cycle. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's what Bitcoin does. It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So you will see that step backward. But if I had to guess, I'd say your all-time high is going to be between 120 to 150 probably.
Of course, don't forget to subscribe to Evan's channel over there on YouTube, which is just Evan Aldo. Very easy to get to. And Evan, thanks again for jumping in today. We appreciate it. Safe travels out there.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, if you guys are not part of the Diamond Circle, get in right now. It's a great place to get additional content. We do a lot more in our community over there. And of course, additional content within that community that's only available to the Diamond Circle. So join down below. Just click the link. And of course, follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.